Hello friends, and welcome to Post-Mormon Parenting. One of the first questions that a parent asks themselves after they leave their religion or stop believing in their religion is, how am I going to raise these kids to be morally intelligent? How am I going to teach them good morals? How am I going to teach them good values without the kind of structure that I had when I was being raised? You know, if my religion, I feel, taught me all these good morals and good values, how am I going to teach that to my kids without that infrastructure in place? So tonight I wanted to explore that. And really, what I talk about tonight is going to apply for households that are religious and households that are not religious. In either camp that you're in, you've come to the right place. Let's dive right in. So a little while back, I was driving in the car with my 5-year-old daughter. I have 3 kids and she's my middle child. And we were going to Bahama Bucks, a place where they serve shaved ice and you can get it in any flavor and whipped cream and cherries on top. And it's just great. I was excited. She was excited and really savoring this time in the car together. And then she says, you know, Mom, I feel sad for my brother and my dad. And I'm sorry that they can't enjoy a tasty treat too. My heart just was so full that she, at this very young age, has already developed so much empathy for other people that while we're going to do this really fun thing, she was able to enjoy that time with me and be present, but also have empathy for how her other family members might feel when they have to miss out. I just thought that was so sweet and such a great parenting moment too. Like, wow, what a parenting win. I'm gonna take credit for that one, yes please. She really displayed the kind of ethical behavior that I want my kids to have. I want them to be very understanding of other people. I want them to be able to enjoy their lives and enjoy their time and be present in each moment as much as they can, and also be able to have empathy for other people around them, especially within their own family. But then hopefully that circle of empathy grows bigger and bigger and bigger to include more and more and more people as they grow. That's really what I want for them. So I'm going to be referring to this book, Raising Free Thinkers, a practical guide for parenting beyond belief. It's the companion book to the original Parenting Beyond Belief. Chapter 2 is called Living and Teaching Ethics in Your Family. And one of the first things that they talk about in this chapter is the research that's been done on certain parenting styles and the outcomes that that has on children and children's ethical behavior. So it says, researchers have found that parents who tend to be harshly and arbitrarily authoritarian or power assertive are less likely to be successful than those who place substantial emphasis on induction or reasoning, presumably in an attempt to be responsive to and understanding of their child's point of view. An especially powerful example of the influence of parenting style on moral development is found in the book The Altruistic Personality by researchers Samuel and Pearl Olinger. Olinger? I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm so sorry. The Olingers conducted over 700 interviews with survivors of Nazi-occupied Europe, both rescuers who are identified as people who actively rescued victims of Nazi persecution, and non-rescuers who are identified as people who were passive about it or took an active role in the persecution. The study revealed profound differences in the upbringing of the two groups in both the language and practices that parents used to teach their values. So those people that they identified as non-rescuers were 21 times more likely than rescuers to have grown up in families that emphasized obedience, being given rules that were expected to be followed without question, while rescuers were over 3 times more likely than non-rescuers to identify reasoning as an element of their moral education. Explained, the authors note, is the word most rescuers favored in describing their parents' way of communicating rules and ethical concepts. Other research has been done by the Office for Studies in Moral Development at the University of Illinois, Chicago. Children in cultures around the world tend to reach certain landmarks in moral development reliably and on time. According to lead researcher Larry Nucci, regardless of what their parents do or don't do. Children's understanding of morality is the same whether they're of one religion, another religion, or no religion, says Nucci. So children are going to develop a pretty good moral compass no matter what religion or no religion their parents are, with one great exception. There's one thing that they identify that parents can do that really, really impedes children's moral development: indoctrination. So remember, I did a video about indoctrination versus education. If the parenting style is authoritarian and they stress obedience without question, and indoctrination, again, teaching kids particular things that can't be questioned, right? So Larry Nucci adds, if it's simply indoctrination, he says, it's worse than doing nothing for kids. It interferes with moral development. So as we saw in the study about the rescuers and non-rescuers in Nazi-occupied Germany, those who had parents who taught unquestioning obedience to absolute rules and absolute authority turns out to be the single least productive thing we can do for our children's moral development. Instead, the best thing we can do is encourage our kids to actively engage in their own moral development, asking questions, challenging the answers that they are given, working hard to understand the reasons to be good. When I go out and drive my car, I don't just obey the traffic rules because I'm scared of getting caught if I do something wrong. It's because I know that safety is really important, because I know the reasons to be good, because I already have this value of not harming other people, because that's part of my moral development, again, with or without religion. One last quote that I want to read. It's just so beautiful. Marvin Berkowitz, professor of character education at the University of Missouri, says, the most useful form of character education encourages children to think for themselves. And that's really, really what I want to get at tonight. I said that a lot in my video about indoctrination versus education. We really want kids to learn how to think for themselves, how to be critical thinkers, how to analyze what they're given and digest it inside, listen to their own moral authority inside. When we were in phases of our lives, when we were thinking like everything was black and white, it's good or bad, it's good and from God, or it's evil and from Satan. And there's this very dichotomous view of so many parts of our life that there wasn't really any thinking to be done. There wasn't any kind of moral reasoning or judgment for many things in our lives. Like for me, it was drinking coffee and drinking alcohol. Like there's no sense of like me figuring out for myself, is this a good thing or is this a bad thing? And no, it's just God's prophet said it was a bad thing. So now you get to choose whether you're going to do this, the good thing, or whether you're going to do the bad thing. You don't get to choose what is good. You don't get to have that moral authority. You don't get to use those critical thinking skills to decide what is good. You get to listen to authority and let them tell you what is good. And you can imagine how that would easily translate into a terrible kind of situation such as Nazi-occupied Germany, where you've got people who are taught the first law in heaven is obedience. And what you really, really want to do is listen to the people in authority when they say this is good and this is bad. You can choose to follow us and do the good thing, or you can choose to follow Satan and do the bad thing. And once you've decided like, well, these people are trustworthy, so whatever they say is good, then that must be right, and that's what I need to follow, and that's what I need to do, and I really need to not rock the boat or break the mold. I need to obey, because that's what I've been taught my entire life is like such a high priority. In extreme examples, this can be really, really dangerous. So what we really want to give our kids is curiosity. Ask questions. There's no question that you can't ask. You don't need to follow anybody, not anybody who says to you, I have all the answers on what is good and bad, so listen to me. I don't want them to do that for anybody in their whole life, not even myself. I want them to listen to their inner voice inside and understand for themselves the reasons that we want to be good and internalize those reasons for themselves. Now, one last thought to wrap this up. In the book, they talk about two styles of parenting, authoritarian and authoritative. Now, I don't want to set up some kind of dichotomy that says either parents are authoritarian or parents are authoritative. Obviously, there's more than just these two styles. But let's compare these side by side so we can understand things a little bit better. So authoritative means we give kids rules, we teach them boundaries, but we also teach them why we teach them, the question why, and we give them the support they need in order to meet the expectations that we have for them. We set expectations for them, but we also help give them the resources they need to meet those expectations, the warmth and the encouragement. Authoritarian, on the other hand, expects strict obedience unquestioningly. If you have a very authoritarian parent, they might punish very harshly. They might be quick to punish. They might be less likely to listen to, well, I'm really hungry, I got hangry, I got irritable, I'm sorry I said those things. It's like, well, you need your punishment anyways, because we gave these rules, you didn't meet them, now you're going to get punished. And the authoritarian parent doesn't really take the time for understanding and empathy and teaching that to their kids. It's more like, obedience is number one in our house, and you will learn to submit your will to mine. Those of you who have grown up with authoritarian parents, you know what I mean, and you know how terrifying that was to grow up like that. Now, again, going back, I really don't want to paint a kind of dichotomous picture. Either your parents are authoritarian or they're not. Obviously, there's a big spectrum of what that looks like. Extreme authoritarian and just like maybe mild authoritarian, maybe authoritarian on particular things, like some hard and fast rules, and maybe not so authoritarian on other kinds of rules. So just like all aspects of our humanity, it's complex. All of us have a little bit of both in us, but what we want to do is lean more toward authoritative kind of parenting so that we can teach our kids to think for themselves, not fall into the trap of following leaders who try to convince them that they have all the answers. That about wraps up part 1 of this mini-series about how to raise ethical children with or without religion. Join me next time for part 2. And as always, if you appreciated this content, please hit the like button. Leave a comment. It really, really helps my channel grow, helps those YouTube algorithms. Thank you all so much. See you next time.